go out. So sorry, I haven't been doing that. It's been so busy on TikTok.
Yeah,
Greetings, greetings, greetings to anyone that is coming in or will be coming in. Royal Bloodline, peace, brother. I don't know if you just stopped in earlier, but thanks so much for welcoming. We have the sister coming, Sister Kylie Sichen, and who is a phenomenal elder of so many different, just a lot of things. Hopefully, we'll have her back soon to go over some other things. I'll give her a little better preparation. It popped into my head the other day, so she's not as prepared as she usually is. So I'll take the fault for that. But she is definitely here and always has pertinent information, for the value for any of the indigenous people of this land. So I want to start with that. Welcome, 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 Mrs. Sichen. I appreciate you so much for coming through today on short notice. I definitely wanted to speak on some of the things that we spoke about. First off, I'll let you speak and introduce yourself as to the things that you do and a little bit of the things that you're into. I'd like to hear a little bit about what you're doing, which in your estate, and I believe it's in Ghana, correct? If I'm not saying it.
I'm sorry, believe it's in Ghana.
Is it in Ghana? I'm sorry, I may be saying it wrong. I'm very bad with places unless I have it in front of me. So I know you had a property that you were tending to, like some farming or something you were into as well. I didn't ask you about that, but if you want to mention that, I definitely wanted you to just explore some of the things you've been into.
Okay, and now that's what I was looking for. Kali Sichen, author, ethnographer, astrologer. Okay, and
Yes.
I'm also a farmer.
Yes.
Okay, let me think now. How do I describe myself? Okay, I am right now um, in a state called retirement, but I'm not retired because I will never retire. There's too much to do. There's too much to actually teach. And as an elder who has traveled the world, and especially throughout the Americas and throughout Africa, and my journey was to actually uncover the traditions of the indigenous people in this land called America, Central America, the Caribbean, and as well as in Africa.
Mm.
Now, you did mention that I was in Ghana. Yes, I lived in Ghana
Yes.
for 4 years, and I started a farm. And the farm is still going. There's a whole nother story behind that right now. Actually, my daughter is there taking care of the farm for a short while because our partner, who is a wonderful young farmer here from America, who was over in Ghana taking care of that farm, he passed away suddenly.
Mm.
And about 5 weeks before his, no, it was less than 5 weeks. It was only about a week or 10 days before his 40th birthday.
Mm.
And so that was kind of a shock to us, losing him like that. And so as a result, my daughter had to go and continue. You can't just leave a farm by itself.
Right,
You
right.
know, you have to take care of it. And especially at this time, which right now I think it's beginning to be the rainy season, which is good. But during the time he passed, it was the dry season, and everything that you have will dry up at that time. But
Mm.
I lived there for 4 years. Actually, I traveled throughout, especially West Africa, and visited about 15 different nations. And in East Africa, I visited both Egypt and Ethiopia. And that was just a wonderful lesson. But in my years in Ghana, I did a very lot of observations, especially cultural, political, and everything else. And I actually wrote about it. Let me share this. Let me see. It says American Indians searching for home, the diaspora
Beautiful.
in Ghana. Why did I call it American Indians searching for home? That's because so many of us have been indoctrinated into thinking that we were brought over on slave ships.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps only about 1% of the so-called black, and I don't like to call us black,
Yes.
but the so-called black people in America, you know, only about maybe 1% or 2% at the most were imported from Africa during the days of so-called slavery.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh. And so most were actually, oh, thanks for putting
Yes,
that up.
ma'am.
Most of us were here as what they call Black Indians.
Mhm.
Now, we are indigenous to this land. We are autochthonous to this land. We are the original people of the Americas, both North and South America and the Caribbean. We
Yes,
are
ma'am.
the original people. We are what they call now sometimes Black Indians. Now, there's a brother by the name of Dane Calloway who actually um, uh, calls us Niji. He's done a lot of research, and I do believe that uh, his calling us Niji, he found in some kind of brother. Is he found that in some of his research. So we have people who call us Black Indians. We have people who call us the indigenous people. We have people who call us the Niji, and all of those are correct. Now, the thing about it is that there are some people who are passing as us, and they call them Native Americans.
Yes.
Most of them are not indigenous to this land. It's really funny, but just recently, I have seen them calling themselves indigenous. Now, the history they made up about how they came here 12,000 years ago. Of course, that's also a lie. But that is the history that they taught us, that they came over that ice path through Alaska and peopled the Americas. Now, when that means that they weren't the indigenous people. If they came over 12,000 years ago,
Right.
a brother in South Carolina, whose DNA takes him back over 230,000 years
Mm-hmm.
here in this land, in these Americas. And so, if those people who call themselves Native Americans, they cannot be indigenous if they've only been here 12,000 years. But
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't believe that they actually have been here that long. Some people say that many of them were introduced into this land during the Trail of Tears when our people fell out,
Mhm.
or died along the way, that they introduced some of the people who Mongolians, you know,
Yes.
some of them were brought here as slaves, and
Mm-hmm.
so and given the trained to be Indians, uh,
Yes.
trained in
There's
tradition
something the Wild West show. Mm-hmm.
from the what the I'm
The
sorry.
Wild West. there's documentation of a book that actually shows the Wild West show where they paraded these people around trying to say, "Hey, these the Indians." When they started introducing
Oh,
the Native Americans in. Yes, ma'am. A whole
right,
season.
right. I think you
Mhm.
spelled my name wrong.
I did.
It's
I'm so sorry.
yeah,
Hold on.
Sichen. If someone is looking for me on the internet, they wouldn't find it with that spelling. But nevertheless,
Thank you. Sorry about that, dear.
we are the
Mhm.
original Aboriginal people. We are the indigenous people. We are the autochthonous people. In other words, we came up with the land. Yes,
Mhm.
that's a spelling.
Sorry about
And
that, dear.
we have to abandon that indoctrination that they gave
Mhm.
us. I mean, I didn't know this. I mean, I'm approaching 80 years old, and I never was told this in any kind of history. And I did what 12 and 4 is what's that? 16 years so
Mhm.
called. Yeah,
Mm.
and never was I told about this history. Now, my mother did tell me one thing, and after actually being the 13th child and the last one in the house,
Mm.
I think that she felt like she had to tell one of her children.
Mhm.
And she told me that she had never to forget this name. The name was Bristol Hall, and
Bristol Hall.
Bristol Hall, Hall, and he was her cousin, and he was an Indian. Now,
Mm.
at the time, she told me I was a teenager. And of course, I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I never forgot, as she admonished me, don't ever forget.
Mhm.
And then years after, it was really when I was in Ghana that I began to think about, oh, well, am I at home? Now, I loved Ghana. I love the people, but I didn't feel at home.
Mhm.
Okay, some people go and kiss the ground and all that, and they say they feel at home. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great for them,
Yeah.
but I knew for me something was not there. And then I had gotten several books about Noble Drew Ali, and I read them while I was in Ghana. And he was talking about the fact that we came from this land here. And so when I got back to the U.S., which was about 2011, 2010, 11, it was, I think, December of 2010, 2011. And so, I had this, yearning to find out uh, what school my mother went to, because my mother was born in 1900. And you know that at that time, there were no schools for so called Black people,
Right.
especially in the South. And there were some religious schools here and there.
Mhm.
Where my people came from, which was south eastern North Carolina. There were no schools.
Mhm.
So I started looking to try to find out what school my mother went to. And I found her in a picture of one of the Indian schools.
Mm.
She was the Croatan, that was called the Croatan Indian School. And
Mm.
it was in, uh, uh, what's that road? The county down there close to Sampson County. My people actually came from Sampson County, North Carolina. But
Okay.
that first Indian school that was built by the state of North Carolina was for Indians, and my mother
Mhm.
was in that picture that was taken in 2009. So she was 9 years old at the time. She finished that school and began to teach.
Hmm.
Now it's interesting because my dad actually went to school too, but he had to leave Carolina. I mean, not Carolina, but Sampson County. His people were from Sampson County too,
Mhm.
and he went to Durham to go to school. And it was it's that is now a college, the North Carolina Central College, but it was called the North Carolina Normal School for Negroes at that time.
Mm.
So he also completed school way back in about um, uh, 1918 or something like that. So they met up in Sampson County. My mother went to begin to teach in Sampson County after she finished school at that Indian school.
Mhm.
So, so that got me on a path to try to discover, exactly where we came from. And in
Yes.
finding that original documentation, that's when I began more research and found out. And the more that I looked, the more that I found. And I've been on this path ever since,
Mm.
you know. So at this time, there have been so many actual events that have occurred that have changed history, you see. And would you put the picture of the other book,
Yes,
Glo-
ma'am.
Global Transformations, the Rise of Feminine Power, and the Ascension of the Ethiopian King?
Yes. I'm pulling it up right
Yes,
now.
if you could put that one up, because in 2016, I started writing that book because I saw the changes that were coming.
Yes.
And I actually published it, finished the book, and published it in 2022, or was it 2022 or 23? I forget. But it wasn't long
Me
ago.
too. Yes.
Yeah, Global Transformations, the Rise of Feminine Power, and the Ascension
Why is
of
it
the
showing this?
Ethiopian King.
Yeah.
Now, that in itself is a very long story, you see. But the truth of the matter, how I came to that, came through another very interesting event that happened to me in San Francisco when I lived in San Francisco. And there was these messages on the beach wall.
Yes.
And that in itself is a whole nother story. I don't want to get into it right now, but
Okay.
it did point to the fact that the rise of the Great Mother was
Mhm.
on the horizon.
Yes.
And there was a polar shift which was about to happen.
Mhm.
Okay. And so the ascension of the Ethiopian king is talking about the rise of Cephas. In other words, when the pole shifts, there will be a change in the North Star.
Mhm.
And the North Star will be in the constellation of Cephas, Cepheus. And if you look up Cephas, the zodiac sign of Cephas, you will see that it is in the North Star. So here
Mm.
this is the rise of the Ethiopian king, and that's what he's called. He's
Mm.
called the Ethiopian king. And it's very, very interesting because the Ethiopian king, that constellation is in the shape of a house. And in my watching that and how that particular constellation is depicted in so many places around the world, ancient megaliths, even in Britain. You know, there is in Britain, there is a ancient megalith of of Cephas, the Ethiopian king, and it goes back thousands of years, thousands of years. So thank you for putting that constellation up. But they call this the Ethiopian king.
It's Cephas. It says Cephas, the king constellation. Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. And so it's the king constellation. They didn't say Ethiopian because
Of course.
that absolutely points to who we are.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And this has been the great secret. Actually, it is the Masonic secret. The secret of secrets is who we are.
Yes.
Who we are. We, the Aboriginal, Indigenous, autochthonous people of the Americas, that's the original Hebrews.
Mm-hmm.
That is the secret of secrets.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this is what the powers that used to be, and I say powers that used to be because those are not the powers anymore. They're trying to hold on to the power, but their time is up. Their time was up with the ending of the Piscean age and the beginning of the Aquarian age. Aquarius is knowledge, Pisces was belief. So
Mm-hmm.
we had false gods during that time, believed in false gods, false images
Yes.
of God, you know, and that time is up. It cannot continue. And so this is why I say that the powers that used to be,
Uh-huh.
they are no more. Of course, there's a battle, there's a spiritual battle actually raging here in America and the entire world
Yes. Yes.
because the whole world has lived off of our power, our knowledge, our wisdom, and actually claimed it for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Okay?
Yep. Yep.
In fact, our whole image or our whole identity has been claimed by people who originally from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is in the steppes mountains of Asia or Eurasia, whatever you want to call it, Eurasia, in the steppe mountains, and in the Caucasus Mountains. This is where the Khazars are from, and they
Mm-hmm.
claimed the original Judaism
Yes.
700 AD. So, I mean, that's not even ancient.
Mm.
700 AD, as far as we know time to be,
Right.
not even ancient. That was even after the so-called birth of the Christ, you see.
Yes.
And so um, the original Christianity took place in Ethiopia, or that's what they call it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And that was the original one, which was hijacked by Constantine, and they created a Christian religion out of that. But the original Hebrews of the Bible were here, the lost tribes of Israel,
Yeah.
here in America. Now, there are so many artifacts that have been unearthed here in America
Mm-hmm.
to show that it is true that the ancient Hebrews were here, but yet this information is hidden from us. I don't know any pastor who, so-called pastor, who talks about, Christian pastor, who talks about the fact that ancient Hebrews were here in the Americas and not in that place that was declared Israel by the Balfour Declaration. Now, I just read a few days ago that Balfour Declaration is no more. So that means that that land is no more over
Mhm.
there. And this is where the Christian ministers have been directing everybody over there.
Yes.
Okay. Now you have the Hebrew, yes, okay. It also has the Paleo Hebrew on it. I see that. Uh-huh. So you see in that Hebrew alphabet, the Paleo Hebrew is what we spoke here in
Mhm.
the Americas. And there is a language called Algonquin, which we actually was based on, in fact, it's almost identical to Paleo Hebrew. I didn't turn this phone off.
Mine's did earlier.
Yeah. Let me turn this phone off. Yeah. And so this Paleo Hebrew. So this is what we spoke. And it was pretty much the language, the trade language for the indigenous people.
Trade. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sort of like that language in East Africa. That is the trade language for all the people in East Africa. Well, this was the trade language for the American Indians, and many times I will call them American Indians, so that people can distinguish between
Yes.
uh, the so-called Black Indians and the so-called Native
Hmm.
Americans, okay, because we are not the Native Americans.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
we are the original Americans, okay, and we are the owners of this land,
That's
okay.
right.
Now, and this is one of the reasons why everybody is quiet about who we are, because they like America. Well, it was called the Holy Land when
Yes.
the so-called, and I keep saying so-called because history has been so distorted
Yes.
that if you don't take the time to actually investigate, you
Hmm.
will be reading a lie.
That's right. Because it's his story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tory, but I always try to tell people that the Tory is the patriarchal story. And this is what they preach. That's what Tory is. That's why it's called his
Uh-huh.
story. It's not his story, it's his Tory. When you read it,
Mhm,
it's not two S's. His story would be two S's.
mhm, mhm. And so so the the story has been distorted, but
Mhm.
this Algonquin language, which is almost identical to uh, uh, Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, was
Mhm.
spoken by the people from Newfoundland all the way down to Chile.
Yes.
Yeah, or Peru. Yeah, Peru.
Mhm.
Peru is really means is Heru. Heru, the Heru or Horus of ancient Egypt. Now, saying ancient Egypt
Mhm.
is another thing we have to identify.
Yes.
Ancient Egypt is really in America. It is America. As a matter of fact, there are documents
Mhm.
saying that Abraham Lincoln went to Egypt. He visited Egypt. Well, he never left here and went. anywhere, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Egypt, and as a matter of fact, Egypt is in southern Illinois.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
They call it Little Egypt
Mm-hmm.
right now. It's still called Little Egypt.
Egypt. Yes.
And the eclipse of 2017 actually passed over Little Egypt.
Mm.
Okay? Now,
My,
as we are speaking about the uh, uh, the eclipse of 2017, let us then speak about the eclipse of this year,
yes.
just a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, wait a minute. Yeah, it was
On the 12th.
April 8th. April
Oh, the
8th.
8th.
April 8th,
Okay.
when there was an X that was across America.
Yes.
Okay. But there was also that Paleo Hebrew letter A at the top, right there on the screen. Look and look. I can't even. My screen is so small. I don't know how.
Which letter I can go down. Which letter am I looking for again?
The top letter. The
Oh,
top letter.
it says a leaf.
Alif. If you turn it around, it's an A.
Mm-hmm.
But the crossing of these eclipses uh, made an X with one eclipse, which was April 2008, and
Mm-hmm.
then there was an eclipse, and it crossed over. The X was over Texas,
Yes.
and there was an annular eclipse. I think that was last year, 2022, in October, that created that Aleph,
Right there. Yes.
okay, at the top. And
Yes. And
then let's scroll to the bottom, and you will see the X, which
five.
actually appeared over Texas. This
Mm-hmm.
X marks the spot, and that's Ta, okay, in
Yeah.
Paleo Hebrew. So basically, it's in other words, it's the alpha in Greek, the
Yeah.
A is alpha, and
Yeah.
Paleo Hebrew is Aleph,
Yeah.
and the X is Omega.
Right. Absolutely. The beginning and
In
the end.
Paleo Hebrew, Ta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so it marked the actual judgment of those who have taken advantage of the children of the Most High,
Yes.
the indigenous people of the Americas, has used them, abused them, stolen from them, denied them, or should I say us, and denied us everything, you know?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
we have people, our own people, who continue to promote that. We have our own people who continue to promote that. And quiet as it's kept, the first invaders here on this continent were brown skinned Europeans.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
The conquistadors, they were Portuguese and Spanish Hebrews, or well, they were Jews. They call them Jews. As a matter of fact, I didn't send you a copy of this particular book. It's called Jews and Muslims in British colonial America,
Mm-hmm.
and it speaks to the fact that the first colonizers here were religious. They were running from religious persecution, yes,
Mm-hmm.
because the Catholics had thrown them out of Portugal and Spain.
Mm.
And as actually Christopher Columbus, who said in his own diary that he was coming to the Holy Land, which is America,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't looking for India. Well, actually, this was called India, primary India, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the other India at that time was not called India, it was called Hindustan,
Mm-hmm.
because they had the Hindu religion.
Yes.
See, and so they weren't even called India at that time. But America was called India. And it was the original, it still is. I mean, all you have to do is look at some of the ancient maps, okay? And you will see all of those places, geological places that are
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in the Bible.
Yes.
Especially you will find the Red Sea, and you know the story of the people fleeing Pharaoh
Yes.
and wandering for 40 years, you know, and then finally crossing the Red Sea. But in Utah, you will find all of the geographical locations that are mentioned in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Utah, Judah, Utah,
Yeah.
Judah,
Another
Judah.
place with all that gold. Mm-hmm. A
What was
lot
that
of
you
these,
said?
a
Say,
lot of another place that has a lot of gold is Utah. Most of
oh,
these places of the Holy Land is it's always where the gold is.
oh, absolutely. But that's what they came for.
Yes.
Now, the Sephardic Jews, who were the so-called Black Europeans, they were Europeans, and
Mm-hmm.
they were Portuguese. And the Muslims, of course, we know that what was it, Taj? Uh, you know, the Muslims who crossed over, Hannibal, yes. The Muslims who crossed over from North Africa and actually taught the Europeans how to bathe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. They
Yeah.
had been,
Yeah.
and that was around 700 AD. And so we have they had actually colonized Europe. And at that time, you, if you remember the history they taught us in school, is
Yes.
that was the Dark Ages. Well,
Yes.
why they call them Dark Ages? Because the
Right.
Europeans, you know, the pale skinned Europeans didn't know anything. They
Mm-hmm.
had no knowledge. It was the Muslims who brought that knowledge to them and built all of those castles all over Europe.
Yes.
Those ancient castles were built by the Muslims and the Jews, who were the dark skinned people of Europe. You know, even the royalty, even today, they call the royalty the black nobility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, why do they call them the black nobility? If you look at the old crests of some of these
All
families,
of them. Yes, ma'am. I
yes, you will see that they depicted themselves as very dark skinned people, even black.
You see how they have with Putin, since you mentioned this about the Europeans, do you see how Putin has exposed it because that's why they were at war. I was telling people this about 2 years ago. I kept telling them that, that was all a fake war. They were at war with him because he had those pictures and all those artifacts. And now he's exposed it and he's made everybody over there praise this black Jesus now. Everybody that's in Russia.
Well, see, the Russians always had
Mhm.
those black icons. And they never threw them away.
They're still in their churches and things, but they no. I mean, they had some that the Jews that had been hidden. I don't know if you saw that. They had some things that Putin had got or retrieved from some Jews that they were trying to hide, and he actually put those particularly on the news. Certain
Oh
artifacts.
yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Putin has exposed all of it.
Yep.
And even at this point, the Pope, I just saw this morning, that the Pope has admitted that when they go into their chambers, they worship the Black Madonna.
Yes.
In other words, the divine feminine principle.
That's right.
It was the original Black mother. You know, we're the only ones that have that original mitochondria DNA.
Yes.
And there was a lady who pointed it out to me, and not to offend anyone now,
Right.
because
Right. It's just
really,
it's
I really don't want to offend anyone. But she said that women who are born of European or pale skin women, even if their father is so-called Black, then they do not have that mitochondrial DNA, because
correct.
it's only passed down through the womb of a Black woman.
That is correct.
Okay, or in American or Indian, or and there's another thing that just recently, and I'm glad you brought up this um, um, thing about Putin, because this has upset so many people and they're trying to hide it. But this is the time of the unveiling.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a new age.
That's
And
right.
we're in
Correct.
absolutely, this is the end of a 26,000 year cycle. That's how long it takes for the whole, for the sun to go around the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are 2,000 years in an age. It's 2,160 years, I believe, in one age. And we just came out of the Piscean age and entering into the Aquarian age. And all of the truth has to be unveiled. The veil has been lifted. There no more lies can stay. No more lies can exist. And so
That's right.
we have to move away from this indoctrination. This is one of the things that really makes me very, very sad. And that's the fact that our own people, the American Indians, too many of us are so indoctrinated into the lie
Yes.
that we cannot change.
Yes.
And we stay out of watching or listening to the truth. I've had to tell many people that if you listen to ABC, CBS, CNN,
Yes.
MSNBC, and a lot of people call MSNBC IA, because all of these channels are indoctrination systems.
Yes, ma'am. All
And
propaganda.
they continue to tell the lie.
Yes. Propaganda
And
is fine.
so this is where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are at the point where we have to either accept who we are, which we are the American Indians, first of all, whose ancient religion was Hebrew, and we are the people of the Bible.
Yes.
Nobody else is. But if I don't really know scripture. I have a couple of friends who are really good in the scriptures. But I do know enough and I've heard enough by listening to other people who are, very versed in the scriptures, that, the reason why there is this reluctance for the so-called powers to that used to be, or the powers that were, why they are so reluctant to give up America and to recognize the original owners of this land is because they want the land.
Mm-hmm. That's
They
right.
want to stay here. They want to continue to squat on our land. And
That's
if you are not an American Indian, generally with type O blood, then you don't belong here.
That's right. You are not of this soil.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
You are not of this soil. And so you really have to, you have to go. And this will be forced by the great mother. I mean, she's getting mad. Look, the great mother is mad. She is
Fed up.
very, very, very angry, and she is showing everybody on this earth who actually is in charge.
That's right.
Now, we also must be sure that we do the things that we need to do to save ourselves, because look, we have no friends. Dr. John Henry Clark, I don't know if you knew him. He was one of our
I'm familiar,
elders.
ma'am. Yes.
Yes, he was one of our elders who taught our history, even though it's from an Afrocentric perspective. He said, we have no friends. And it's true, because everybody has eaten from our table.
The only way they could have ate was getting some from over at this table.
Absolutely. And many of them who are here squatting on our land now don't want to go to where they came from. They don't want to go. They're proud to say, well, I'm Italian, I'm Irish, I'm British, I'm Scandinavian, I'm Polish, I'm this, that, and the other. But they want to stay here. They don't want to go back to their land. So they must continue to suppress our indigenous status, because we are the owners of this land. Now, how do we survive when we depend on them to feed us? Okay.
Exactly.
And we got to come to the fact, we have to come to the realization that we have to feed ourselves. Now, most of our farms were taken away illegally. I have a friend who's fighting the people up in North Georgia right now for the land that he's got the deed to. His daddy gave it to him. His daddy was I think his daddy was an Etowah, and you know of the Etowah mounds up there.
Yes,
His
ma'am.
daddy was a purebred Etowah, and his mother was a Anawaya. And he has the deed to the land, but the people took it.
Wow. There's a couple of stories that I've been just in the past 2 years. I'm amazed at those stories. There's an elder that was they had a clip of him, the same exact thing happened. They tricked him with the paperwork. They tricked him out of his land with the paperwork. There's another gentleman that reached out to me for some help with his property last year. They took his property, and now they had the nerve to be offering him $73,000 toward a $300,000 home. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so this is what they will continue to do. They've always cheated us. Well, they stole the land, first of all.
Yes.
And it was the Indian chiefs who did it. Now, in our culture it is matriarchal. We all know the big mama in our communities.
Yes.
We all know who the big mama was. Okay, we all had big mamas, you know, and they were the ones that everybody listened to because they were the wise old women, you
Yes.
know, what they call the crones. And
Mhm.
they were the ones who were basically in charge as matriarchs of the land. Now, the men never had any right to give the land away or to sign any treaty
That's
because
right.
the land belonged to the women in our culture. In the indigenous culture, which was a matriarchy, the land belonged to the women.
That's right.
And one of the very first treaties that was signed by, William Penn and what was his name, that Indian chief? Uh, um, I can't think of it. I'll think of it, very soon. But anyway, Tammany. Tammany was his
Oh,
name.
yes. Yes, ma'am.
Lenape Indian.
Mhm.
The very first treaty that was signed by William Penn and Tammany, they killed his wife because she wasn't going to sign any treaty with them people,
Mhm.
and so they killed her. Her name was Winona, and I actually have a friend named Winona.
I did too when I was growing up. That's funny.
Uh-huh. Indigenous name
Mhm.
and a historical name, because they killed her so that they got him drunk. The spirits always
Yes,
got us.
ma'am.
You
Yes,
know, uh,
ma'am.
they got him drunk and got him to sign that land over. They got a secret society that they call the Sons of Tamina, but it ain't no indigenous people in it. It's all them white folks.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
And in New York, the ruling, what do you call it, capital, or not, the seat of government is called Tammany Hall.
And they actually, he's one of the, I did a story on him. He's a chief that they ostracized. And that's why they ostracized him, to push more of the papacy and the patriarchal rule. Like, oh, this big grand chief. And of course, not knowing the story of how everything was really the chief, his wife. And then they got rid of her and took over pretty much.
Yeah, it's a very long story.
Yeah.
There's a brother who has told that whole story. He's got a series of stories about Philadelphia, which, of course, is the real capital
Mm-hmm.
of this so-called America. You know, the Philadelphia was the Moorish capital of this country at the land, and like I said, the Moors and the Sephardic Jews were the original. They were the original colonizers here.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
got to face that.
And real quick on that, they're always trying to push the Moors. Oh, we're original Moors. We were originally Moors. And I tell people, I've gotten ostracized, to be honest, in this community, in the YouTube community, because of my push against the Moors and then pushing that Moor episode upon us. And I've read things in the antiquarian, and also in old encyclopedias that actually told the story about it, saying how they came over and they said that even a lot of them, the Moors were actually light skin color, and they would pass for the other color, and they had green eyes. Some of them had blue eyes. It literally gave a description of it, and then they would pass over, and then they were coming in and colonizing the land, like moving people in different positions and things of that nature. there's so many stories out here for people to keep believing that and pushing that narrative on us.
Well, there was a lot of mixing, with the original. Well, you have to remember the Moors and the Sephardic Jews were the original merchants, and they went all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay, they were the original merchants. Okay, they did business.
They did the traveling. They did, that was their job,
Yes,
their position.
and that was what they did.
They don't understand it's a title. I'm not to cut you off again, but I'm sorry, ma'am. I want to just clarify this. It was a title, and I tell these people, and I want to have an understanding from you that the Moors, it was a title, just like any other title that is given for a person in a position. And they had certain things. They were guarding certain gates on the areas, which was the sea guard, so on and so forth. Am I correct with that?
Well, yes, that's a part of the story. I mean, they've been around. I mean, long, long, long time as merchants. Okay?
Seafarers.
Yes, they were the seafarers. They were the ones who actually traded all over, even Asia. There's a series on, I think, what is that, Hulu right now, called Shogun, and they are depicting the Portuguese. Of course, they make them white; they have to do that.
Yes,
who were in Japan. Well, it was the original shoguns, which they show when they show you a picture of a shogun, even today in Japan, they were Black. And they were the ones that got rid of the Portuguese because they had brought Christianity, and the Japanese were not Christians. And they resented that. And they finally got rid of the Portuguese. Okay? But we have to remember, yes, many of them were brown skinned with green eyes, blue eyes. But many of the original Europeans were brown skinned with green eyes and blue eyes. We still got green eyes and blue eyes within our the original mitochondria holds every skin color, every eye color, every texture of hair. The original mitochondria DNA. We are the mothers of humanity, and they know that. They know that,
but and they want to try and hide it. Yes. They can, if as long as if it comes out and it exposes, then other people be so shocked, like, oh my gosh, we thought everything was about us. No, they can't let that get out now. They can't let that out.
I think that's going to be the apocalypse, as you said earlier, the zombie apocalypse, when the people whose minds have been zombified actually get the truth, that ingest the truth. We can hear it day and night and not actually absorb that, because I see that is happening with our own people. You could tell them anything and it'll go one ear and come out the other, because their minds have been zombified.
Yes.
So this zombie apocalypse is about us not accepting who we are. That's what our status is here in America.
The status.
Our status is that we are the owners.
Period. There's no question.
End of the discussion.
Yes. They have that block in place, because what people don't understand when they're like, oh no, because of this, they'll argue with you with things, but the block, they don't understand it was the seed that was planted. That was that that seed that they planted in the mind from like what, preschool, kindergarten. Soon as they
Oh,
start the
yes,
spell binding with
absolutely.
the spelling and using the words to indoctrinate the mind. So now this is grown within the person, just like any plant, because we are the absorbers of this stuff. So when we take that in, it becomes a part of us. So now people have this as their reality. Even when the truth is in front of them, they're like, nah, I can't believe that. They're so indoctrinated. The spell has binded their mind literally.
Yeah, they can't accept the truth because of the level of indoctrination that they have
Mhm.
uh, it- been under all their lives. And then if they went through the church too,
Oh man, double
let me
dipping on
tell you, if
indoctrination.
the
Oh
church
man, they really bound.
and if they still go in the church,
Oh, them the zombies. They got the zombies right on the pews.
right? And even though some of the biggest churches, the ministers or the pastors or whatever you want to call them, have been exposed as not worthy of your praise or even for your attention.
Yes.
Look, they still believe in them. So the mind is gone. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. It
Mm-hmm.
is so black. It is so much black. And then not to mention, oh, I know I don't want to change the subject, but definitely want to make sure that I mention that you have looked into so many different plants and things, because I do that. I'm into herbal healing, Reiki healing. I believe in everything being natural, holistic, so on and so forth. So in the sense of that, us being like plants, right? We are the light, right? And how they've affected not only the indoctrination in the mind, but the physical body with all this food, the water, how it's
Yes.
contaminated, the air. I just want you to speak on that because I know you, with your farming, that's important to you as well.
Yes. My degree at my California State University was
Hmm.
in nutrition.
Yes, ma'am.
And then actually, I was the first person to develop a plant based diet for the kindergarten at the university child care center. I was
Wow.
the first person to do that. And that was, what was that? In 1976.
Wow, that's crazy, and that's something that they have after all this time. Now everything's about so-called nutrition. When they got all the GMO stuff, oh, we got all these GMO foods. Let's focus on nutrition now, which is almost oxymoronic. But yet all this time, and they've never implemented that in our schools, but they do it in all these other places.
Mhm. Well, this is what it started, and this is where it started. And it started with that was just my job on campus.
Hmm.
That's exactly what I did. I wrote the menus and I shopped for the food and brought it there. Well, then they had real food.
Hmm.
And then that was before GMOs
Yes,
and genetically modified organisms. They don't even call them food no more. They call
right,
them
right.
organisms.
Organism, something that's grown in the
Mhm,
lab and
mhm.
telling you exactly what it is.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
so the one thing that I had to do was to keep milk on the menu. You see, that was what the FDA required, that the milk
Mm.
stay on the menu, but the milk didn't have that hormone in it at that time.
And right back then, it was organic.
Uh-huh.
Still cow's milk, but it
Exactly.
was
And
organic.
they were still the cows were still eating grass instead of
Mhm.
corn. Now they're feeding the cows corn, and cows don't eat corn,
They
and
actually are
that's
feeding
why
them.
they're sick.
They do slop as well. If you haven't heard this before, where they're cross contaminating, like say, like when they take certain parts from a hog or a pig, they might take some of the guts or intestines or something and mix it with the cow, the cow or what have you. I've
Well,
seen.
when you have demons
Mm-hmm.
actually in charge of feeding you, then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get whatever demons want you to have.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, at this point in my life, I am putting seeds in the ground,
Yes, ma'am.
and I'm associated with a group of women here in Georgia who
Mm-hmm.
are producing their own food. There are other members of the group that are not in Georgia, and we have a call every Wednesday night that we talk about these things. We talk about what's going on in the world,
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well as how we are coming together to create our own food.
Yes.
And we have planted seeds and transplanted. I'm in the process now of transplanting the seeds that we came together here at my place, to plant. The women, and they came from all over Georgia. No one has come from another state at this point, but the women who are close to Atlanta, where I am,
Mm-hmm.
and even further away, have come, and we have come together and we planted. We need to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
We
with
need
that
to,
and the
if
farming that you've been
we're in an
doing,
apartment,
I
even
have a. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I think there was an overlay. What did you say?
even if we're in an apartment, we
Yes,
can grow some food, okay? If we have to, we can get lights to grow our food. If you have a balcony or a patio or
mm-hmm.
something like that, you can put some food in some pots and grow it. And we all did. Our first project was microgreens. Well, microgreens,
Oh, quick.
that yeah, they grow very fast,
Yes, ma'am.
and you can eat them as babies, and they're totally nutritious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, And so these are the things that we must do. We must grow our own foods if we can get away from the cities, if we can. Okay. And many people are getting together, to get away from the cities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we have to grow our own food. Otherwise, we're going to die from the poisons. And of course,
Absolutely.
they keep us alive when they can make a whole lot of money off of us,
Mm.
through dialysis. Have you noticed
Yes.
that the dialysis units are populating our communities like liquor stores used to?
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to do a story on that. What's crazy is they're telling people that they have this dialysis, right? And they
that,
have it
that
coming
they
in
have kidney trouble.
kidney trouble. Yes, ma'am.
And the
Then they have
first thing I ask them, oh, okay, are you still urinating? And most of the people say, yeah. I said, well, why aren't you trying to correct that situation rather than allowing them to take your blood and take the essence of your blood away from you?
yes, ma'am. Taking the life. They it's the same as the dialysis, right? It's the same thing as the plasma centers, and people don't understand it's the same thing. They're stripping
Mm-hmm.
people of their life out of their blood, and then they're replacing it and putting it. Then they wonder, oh, when I leave there, I'm so weak. When you went there, you were fine. You were doing just
Mm-hmm.
awesome and great, but you decided to go there and let them drain you like vampires of all your blood and take all the substantial stuff out of your blood, like your plasma and your nutrients. That's what
Yep.
people are doing. Yes, ma'am.
And they get worse and worse and worse.
Yep. So they
Then
gone.
they can be healed.
Mm.
They can be healed by changing their diet and their
Yeah.
minds. You
And the
see,
mind.
your mind
That's right.
determines your health.
That's right.
Of course, you can't neglect the fact that you need certain nutrients, you need
Mhm.
water. You need a mindset of health, and you need to exercise. All of those things, we have a sedentary lifestyle. A lot of people don't even, a lot of people never leave the house. Well, if you don't leave the house, you better exercise. You can exercise in the house. I do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? you know. But those are things you have to do. You have to provide the nutrients, and you can microgreens. You could grow them anywhere in your house. If you got any sunlight, that's great. But if you don't, you can
Yeah.
get some grow lights, and then you eat those greens. I just had some this morning.
Onions,
Because I
ginger,
got them on
turmeric.
my back porch. I'll go and get them,
Mhm.
and before they know that they've been cut, from their root, I've already ingested them. You see, so it's live food.
Yes.
Hmm.
And ginger and turmeric and onions are very easy. That's like the first things that you can start with. Ginger and turmeric are awesome for everything when it comes to the healing in the body, inflammation, certain pain in the joints, and
Hmm.
things of that
Hmm.
nature. So ginger, you just put it under a little bit of dirt and keep it water. It's gonna just grow. Same thing with the turmeric. Those are two things anyone can grow. It's so easy. And
And onions and garlic.
yep, and celery as
Everything
well.
you
Yes,
eat,
ma'am.
you should have onions and garlic in it.
Yes, ma'am. And
Because
celery.
I'm sorry.
And celery. Celery is very good
Oh,
for you.
celery
Yes,
is very
ma'am.
good. Yes, it is. And so, I mean, eating simple, you know, back
Mhm.
in the day, how we survived that Great Depression was because we had people who were still on the land.
Hmm.
Our people were still on the land. I remember when I was a child, my mother used to send food to my brothers and sisters who lived up north, had gone to north for the migration to get jobs, and she used to send them food, you know.
So we had food. We weren't that deep. I tell people all the time, unfortunately, these people are the ones that brought on the Great Depression. The Great Depression wasn't that we were going through the depression. These people brought over the depression here on us from these other lands that were destitute. They were living in squalor and things of that nature.
Well, all of those who came over from Europe
Mhm.
after, um, during the 1800s, 1700s, 1800s, after the migration of the Jews and the Muslims over here, all of those pale skinned people were people they didn't want. So they ridded their jails, their
Mhm.
insane
All the
asylums,
trash.
and their streets of what they called, I think Winston Churchill called them, squalor. And so
Yeah.
those Europeans who came over during the 1800s and the early 1900s, they were not at all royal.
Hmm.
And they came over here trying to pretend that they were something.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Not, and it's not about bashing anyone. Had they come over here and acted civil
Simple.
instead of robbing, stealing, killing,
Yes.
and stealing, you know,
Yes.
killing, robbing, you know, and mistreating God's chosen people,
That's right.
you got to pay, baby.
Yes, should have been humble. They were doing it for a while, then they just started getting greedy. Like, oh, they just got such an abundance. Wait a minute, why should they have all this? That jealousy, you know?
Jealousy, that's what
Yes, ma'am.
that's what brought on the Black Wall Street demise.
Yeah.
Jealousy. The people were doing well. They had beautiful clothes, beautiful homes, beautiful pianos in their homes. And then you got this squalor that just got out of Europe, and with nothing,
Yes.
and they were jealous. And the same thing happened in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yeah.
But you don't hear about that. You know, the Europeans who had just come over and didn't have anything, they were jealous, and so they destroyed what our indigenous people had,
I
and
read a
and
story.
stole everything.
There is a story just to mention on that, when talking about one of the towns and where the U.S. Army even came in and helped these people, and they came and they were even taking trophies. They it was one of the stories in there was talking about how this pregnant woman, they bound her up on a stake and burnt this woman alive, and they were laughing about it, and the guy came and cut her belly and let the baby drop out on the ground and stumped the baby. This was a whole story. I would never forget. One of the worst things. I know it's stuff probably even worse than that, but that is like one of the worst stories that I've heard when we hear about
But
these
this
things.
was common practice. This
Yes,
was
ma'am.
common practice. And it is true that the U.S. Army came in and helped
Mhm.
with Black Wall Street. They brought planes and bombed the area that the indigenous people lived in.
Mm, mm, mm. In all of the areas.
And so I don't see how we could ever forgive them. I don't see myself. I
They would
can't.
have to do a lot of repentance, and
Repenting.
yes, ma'am.
But how do you change a mindset?
You can't. We can't. Their children are raised up into it. They have this just like they indoctrinated our children and us into, believing the indoctrinated falsities of the patriarch. They believe it, so they feel they have this superiority. So that ego, that's kind of like you said, that's a hard thing to break. To try to knock that
How
down.
do you
Yeah.
how do you change their minds?
Mm.
See, because they've been
We got to see the truth.
indoctrinated.
They got to see the truth. We got to expose it. That's why I do it. I expose it all the time. I read these stories. Everything I'm talking to you about, I show it because people have to understand that. And it has nothing to do with, I'm prejudiced, or people say you're prejudiced. Why would I be prejudiced? I don't have a inkling to be in fear or feel like someone else is dominant over me. And I don't pretend to be dominant. I just know who I am and where I come from and what my ancestors, have created here, what's been stolen from us. I just like to tell the truth. The truth shall set you free. You can't be free in your mind unless you understand the truth. That's where the light prevails and
Exactly.
opens it
Okay.
up, right?
Absolutely. Now, I do want to say this. In this book that's on the screen now, Global Transformations, The Rise of Feminine Power and the Ascension of the Ethiopian King, I have a section in there where I have outlined a very important book,
Mhm.
which is The Falsification of African Consciousness.
Mm.
This book was written in 1991 or 1992, I forget, by a brother can't remember his name right now, but I have outlined it. It was like a 200-page book, and I brought it down to about 18 pages. But what it's about is how Western psychiatry, which was created by eugenicists
Mhm.
and pedophiles.
Hmm.
What's his
Yeah.
name? Carl Jung, and what's the other one? The one who was supposed to, what's his name? Can't think of his name right now, but he created this thing about the superiority of the white race,
Mhm.
And anyway, um, the brother wrote about how they have created this whole medical or psychiatric psychiatry uh, to show us how we are sick because we have not accepted their psychology or psychological assessment of what's wrong with us. Okay. If
Exactly.
we have not accepted their superiority, quote, and their medicine and whatever they say is right, you know,
Mm-hmm.
then something's wrong with us.
That's right.
And so I've outlined that in this book to show you how they've created a whole psychiatry about us not accepting what they say. And so therefore something's wrong with
You're
us.
crazy. Now you're crazy
Yeah.
because you believe
So
it.
we gonna make a whole bunch of medicines to
Mm-hmm.
give to you to make you accept what we said you are.
That's right. Make you crazy so
And
that you
and
will
and
fall under.
let me tell you, honey,
Mm.
you need to read that. If you can get the original book, I think you can still get it.
Okay.
But if you want an outline of it, you can get Global Transformations, my book, because I outlined the whole thing.
Okay.
Because we have to understand how they've created a medicine
That's right.
to control our thoughts.
Yes, and that's in it. I did it. That all of it came into effect at one time. It's like all of a sudden, all these mental disease. They start saying, "Oh, mental health, mental health." Like you never heard this stuff before, right? Then all of a sudden, it was all this mental health. Oh, there's this kind of disease. There's this ADHD. There's I forgot all the names. They got all these different names that came from nowhere. Where were
Well, they
where were
sat
all these
down and created it.
where were they at
Charles
before?
Darwin, and Carl Jung.
Yes,
They were
ma'am.
the ones who came out with that
Mm-hmm.
and that whole psychiatry. And you know something, when I was in college, every year I signed up for the psychology
Mm-hmm.
class.
I took psychology too. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I couldn't stay in the class more than 2 weeks, and I dropped it every time. I know I must have signed up about 3 or 4
Mm-hmm.
times. And I had to drop it because I said, wait a minute, this don't sound right. It
Hmm.
did make sense to me how they were trying to put people in certain categories. You know, people are individuals,
They
and
were playing real
they have
quick
their own mind.
on
You
what you
know,
just said. They were playing with people's minds with those classes. Let me say something on that when you just said that, because you know
mm-hmm,
what took me out of it? One day we had a course, right? And we were
mm-hmm.
reading in the book, and it was talking about back when there was the war, right? And how it didn't say it, but basically they were talking about the homesteading. And it was saying how the soldiers came, they were getting this land, so on and so forth. And then they were saying how the BLACK. I'm on TikTok too. Remember I told you, so I got to be careful with my words. But they were saying that the basically the Indians, right? They were saying that the Indians, right, were a different sector or something of that. It was really weird. I was trying to like put them in a boat where even though they fought the war too, they weren't eligible to get the homes. They couldn't get the homes, but these
Oh,
WA people could get the homes.
absolutely. They
And
have
my thing,
discriminated. They have discriminated against the soldiers who helped them to get this land.
yes.
Okay,
Right.
and
Listen, Miss Sichen, listen to what I'm saying real quick, though. I'm sorry. What I'm
mhm,
saying to you is what took me out of it is why would a psychology class, hear what I'm saying? That's a whole subject in itself. What you're saying, right? Just what
mhm.
you just went into as soon as I said that, your mind said, hey, boom, you zoomed right there as to where the subject was. My thing is, why am I in a psychology class and it's talking about the land that was given to these people versus these people? It was weird. It was kind of like they were playing mind games in the class, if that makes sense. That might sound crazy, but that's the way I saw it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not crazy at all. You just realize what they were doing,
Yeah, it was
and that's
weird.
what the course in psychology does. It messes with your mind and
Mm-hmm.
make you think that you've been thinking wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so I recognize that. very early in my life is that, hey, these people trying to play games with me.
And I took you
Yeah.
off topic. I'm sorry. I just want you to understand what I was saying. You were saying how, yes, with the land, you were about to say something about that, particularly with the land. And yes, they were doing that, with the soldiers all over and having them fighting, and it was their land, and they giving them the land, got them off the war, basically, while they taking their land.
We have always been the fodder for these wars. And we have to understand that, understand, whatever. I hear people saying that all the time, but you do have to understand in yourself that all of this was about getting rid of us and taking our land.
Period.
You see, that was always the bottom line.
That's what everything is about.
It's to get rid of us and take. But we have survived. Why have we survived? We have survived because the Great Mother has taken care of us. The Great Spirit is with us. And that's something they can't touch, especially since they disregarded and disrespected the Great Mother. Took her from the throne. The Sibyls, who actually were the great spiritual leaders of our people so long ago, before the Black Madonna. We all know the Black Madonna, but they were the Sibyls before that. And they were the ones, who were the oracles. You remember that movie,
Matrix?
The Matrix.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, why didn't they make a white woman the oracle? They couldn't. They had to be somewhat truthful. So anybody, these European women who claim to be psychic and trying to get you to pay them for something, watch it. Okay.
That's right.
I want to mention something that because this particular guy has so much influence now, especially with our techies, our technology people. Elon Musk. He's from a family that we have to know is very deep into mind control. And they have put him at the top to try to influence us to actually go that way. Technology will not feed you. Okay? Seeds in the ground feed you. There was some information. Well, I have a picture of him in this suit, with demonic symbols all over it. So he is a part of the dark forces on this planet. But his mother, according to this particular resource that I got a hold of yesterday, she was a part of the Manson clan. Do you remember? Yes. His mother.
Wow. Charles Manson. Elon Musk's mother was a part of that clan. Wow, that's crazy.
And she herself, her father, or Elon's grandfather, he has some questionable adventures in Africa, southern Africa. As a matter of fact,
he is African American, right? Yeah, he is an African American.
Yes. Yeah, he's the only African American because we're not. Most of us are not. There are some African Americans here,
Mm-hmm.
but most of us are American Indians or the indigenous Yiji or the Aboriginal people of this land,
Yes, ma'am.
whichever one term you want to use.
Yes.
Because there's so much divide, you know, within our own ranks, you know, that's why we can't get anything together, or we have not so far
Mm-hmm.
been able to get anything together. It's because of the divisions. I was told by a lady that I know, just Sunday I was with her,
Mm-hmm.
and she was telling me she went to a reparations meeting, and one of the original founders in this area, Georgia, of the reparations committee was saying that he's afraid of another group that has reparations going.
Mm.
He's actually afraid of him for his life.
Oh, wow.
That's how deep it's gotten. Now, I want to say something about reparations.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
want reparations.
Right.
You cannot repay me. Just give me my land. No, not give it to me. You just leave.
Leave, please. Just go.
Yes. And see, the thing about it is that the Great Spirit is going to make sure that happens. We don't have to take up no kind of gun. All we have to do is to survive this, should I say, should survive this era where they will try to starve us to death.
Yes.
That's why you got to put some seeds in the ground
Put it in the ground.
and get people to understand how it's so necessary for us to do that. I mean, this is not a game.
It's for survival.
We're talking about survival. All we got to do is to take care of ourselves until the Great Spirit takes care of them. And the sun is our fan. It's our friend. And it's taking them out. That's why they're trying to hide the sun. Trying to put up a false sun in front of the real sun.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Chemtrails all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. So anyway, my sister, I'm so happy that you brought me on. I'm always happy to talk with my people and to alert them to what's going on in the world and to say who we are. Be proud of who you are. Everybody wants your land to
Mm-hmm.
the point where they will lie until their skin falls out off and their teeth come out. They will lie to keep your land.
And can you clarify, since I'm just looking at your title again with that, and it says the ascension of the Ethiopian king. For people that think that Ethiopia is in this desolate land, before you get out of here, do you mind? I don't know if you have time, but can you just speak on that real quick? Because people don't understand that that is a part of this soil, and that that is like a falsity. It's just a name they put to try to displace us from what's ours and what belongs to us. Like, could you just touch on that real quick before you get out of here?
Okay, like I said, Egypt and Ethiopia, they're all here.
Oh,
Okay. The land, in fact, I've got maps. I haven't pulled them out. I should have thought about that.
mm,
That show that anywhere where dark skinned people lived was called Ethiopia. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And Egypt, of course, Egypt is. Egypt is a what Greek word.
Mm-hmm.
that it never was in Egypt, so called, except when they made that name up and changed it from here, this land, the Americas, to over there. But you've also
Mhm.
got to understand that this was one land.
Mhm.
Mhm.
One
Yeah,
landmass.
one land. The two Ethiopias, somebody put was two Ethiopians or three Indias. Yeah.
Mhm.
America has an Ethiopian face and India superior. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. And I did mention that earlier that
Yeah.
when Christopher Columbus came, or that's what they called him, that wasn't even his name.
Exactly. Yes.
That's a historical name of he was a Sephardic Jew who
Mhm.
have been thrown. Let us remember now, they didn't just come over here. They were thrown out of Europe
Mhm.
by the Christians, by the Vatican, by the Jesuits.
Mhm.
They were thrown out of Europe. They had to leave Europe. They had to leave Spain and Portugal.
Mhm.
Mhm. And so some of them actually traveled and they went to France first. W.E.B. Du Bois' family was from France. Did you
Mhm.
know that?
Yes, ma'am. Him
Uh-huh.
and the
He
other
was called
guy.
a Huguenot, a
Mhm.
Huguenot. And notice how when they put so-called our leaders up,
Mhm.
a lot
It's
of
them.
them aren't even from this land at all.
It's always them. Yes, ma'am. Because they have to put them in the false light of recognition to throw it off and keep the eye off of the truth, which is us. Uh,
Barack Obama had no I he had nothing to do with us.
yes, ma'am. Even do
And
problems.
what's that
Mhm.
girl's name?
Mhm.
Kamala.
Yes.
Both of her parents were foreigners. They were squatters on this land.
Mhm.
And even her father, who's from Jamaica, he came from the wealthy, I don't know whether it was Jewish or Moorish family out of Europe. So these are the
They
people
were
they put
more.
up.
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
These are the people they put up
Yeah.
in our place. But we got a whole bunch of them that are sellouts. In fact, the most of the people in Congress
Yes.
that are so-called black leaders,
Yes.
they done sold out.
Yep.
Hmm.
Even to
Hmm.
this day, it's never stopped. It never stopped. And most of these people are they're not from here, which is a mistake. That's why they try to group us into these fake Afro American, Black, minorities, because putting people in the state of a mental state of not being competent. That goes into all the law.
Right. That's what
Which means
and a
part of
lot of
the
people
land
will
through the law.
call themselves. A lot of people will call themselves minority, not knowing that that means that you are incapable of taking
That's
care of
right.
yourself. But if you don't look at the words and see what they really mean,
Right.
then you are a minority.
You are a minority, exactly, because you're
Hmm.
darkened in your mind, blind in the mind,
Hmm.
decapitated in your soul.
Hmm.
Literally.
Yeah. And I'm not speaking to divide us. You see, the whole thing about it is that if we look at Africa, hey, they're rising up now. The young
Mhm.
people in Africa are not just, they're not having it.
Right.
They are not going to be colonized forever. And I see this mostly across the grassland areas of Africa. You
Mhm.
know, what is it? Niger.
Nigeria.
There's a Senegal now. They've rose up and they're,
They
but
done
it's,
got rid of them. They done threatened them. They done went on these people talking about you thought this was your farm. Get off and done slayed them and got them out their land. Yeah, they doing
yep,
a lot right now in the last 2 years, 2 or 3 years.
Yes, in the last year, they have the young people of the grasslands of Africa have rose up. Now
Right.
there's those coastal lands. A whole lot of them are had the nerve to stand up and say that they were going to fight for the colonizers.
Mm, mm.
Even Ghana, where
Wow.
I lived,
Indoctrinated.
he's ready to fight those brothers from those grassland lands, Niger and it's not all coming to me. It's Senegal and what's the name of the uh, well, anyway, ancient Timbuktu, all those places. Yeah, the young people rose up and said, I ain't having this. And the coastal ones, Nigeria and Ghana and, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, all of them come talking about they're going to go and fight for the colonizer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody just said Ghana has a huge Masonic history.
Yes.
Well, if you take a look at the present Ghanaian president, they put him on the cover of Forbes magazine, the Money magazine. Why?
He just came out with this new gold currency. Yes,
Who?
ma'am.
Ghana?
Yes, ma'am. One of the, if I'm not mistaken, I know the African president. He just came out with this new gold
I
back.
know Zimbabwe has actually, Zimbabwe has the Anunnaki gold, but
This is a new one. Yes, ma'am.
um, Ghana has. I haven't heard that. And my daughter is over there in Ghana right now.
I could be mistaken. I'm sorry. I know it's an African place. Like I said, I'm not really good with certain names. Sometimes I apologize. But,
Okay, but
Mhm.
I heard that Zimbabwe had done that.
That might be it.
Come out with the gold coin. Zimbabwe got so much gold, and that is one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why, they hated Mugabe so much.
Mhm.
Is because he wouldn't let them into Zimbabwe, to harvest their
That's
resources.
right.
And he was putting the white folks off the land,
Mhm.
you know. So they did everything to get rid of him, but the brother stayed around for a whole lot of years. I think he was 95 or something like that when he passed, you
Mhm.
know. But I think it's Zimbabwe that has a gold coin now.
Yes, they
You
do.
know, but they got so much gold there. I mean, they got ancient gold there. Not the gold isn't ancient everywhere, but the president of Ghana, he was one. His father was the one who deposed Kwame Nkrumah, who was a liberator of Ghana. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People in.
Okay. Well, the copper goddess said Zimbabwe launched the gold coin. Yeah, I thought it was. They got
Yeah.
so much gold there, honey. But Ghana has it too.
Mm.
I mean, there's gold all over. There's gold in America. But I can't call myself we. Those people who are presently in charge of America will not harvest the gold here and the resources here. They want to keep them and take everybody else's.
Right. Greed.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
about Haiti? Is there any gold in Haiti? Someone on TikTok.
Honey, there's so much gold in Haiti, and there is what is that? Iridium. That iridium is what they will need for the technology.
Yes.
They need the iridium, and Haiti is sitting on top of so much iridium. Okay,
Mm.
so but look, the people in Haiti are still living. They have done everything to get rid of the Haitians, you know?
Yes.
They have done everything. Even the UN was there and pausing the water, put cholera in the water. The people still there. I told you the Great Spirit is there. Oh,
Yes.
it take care of us. Big Mama taking care of us. Now there is somebody around here now calling herself Big Mama. If anybody asks you to turn their land over to them, run the other way as fast as you can.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why would someone want to take something from you that's been in your family for ages? Why would someone want to take that from you and take the control over it? That don't sound like a colonizer off the bat immediately. Like,
Well, let me say this. The head of the so-called 13 royal families of Europe is called the Pindar. And basically that means he's the head dragon or the head demon, you know, because they are Satanists. They worship Satan, and the head Satan worshiper is the Vatican. Okay. Now I know these things will upset a lot of people, but it's the truth, you know. But when the head Satanist gives you documents,
faulty documents.
I can't say I did see them, and I was one of the first to see them in 2020. What was that? 2023. Yeah,
24.
And I did not like what I saw, and I expressed that.
Yes.
But you know, when the Pindar gives you something, that means what he's trying to do is to get the women to agree to give the land back to them. Because the women are the owners of the land. They had the men sign the treaties, and many of them were half-breeds.
Yep.
Or fine Indians.
Yes, ma'am. You know. Agents, paid agents.
And so you have to, when somebody asks you to turn your land over, if you got a house or a piece of property or something like that, and they say, give it to me and I'll take care of it, believe me, they gonna take care of it, put it in their own pocket. And so this is what I want to say, you know, and I'm so happy that you've given me a chance to address the people today. I'm always happy to speak and let the people know what's really happening.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have to talk, we have to speak our truth. And so that the Great Mother, the divine feminine, will hear us and continue to protect us.
Yes, ma'am.
We've got to pray for that protection. We've got to honor the Great Mother. We have to honor the Great Spirit. We have to do it daily so that they will continue to protect us, because we got a lot of enemies.
Yes. And we have to, like you said, we have to make sure that we're feeding ourselves. Stop trusting these people, that we can allow them to continue to feed us, not only our bodies with food and the certain things that they're putting out, but with the stuff we take in with our eyes, what we're listening to, what we're watching, information. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but there's one thing I must say. You have to watch them. You can't turn your back and say, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to what they say. You better be knowing what their plans are. Okay, but you can't get that information on ABC, CBS, CNN, and MSNBC. You cannot get that information from those sources. They all belong to the powers that used to be, and we will very soon be seeing them fall. Period.
Period.
So let us not jump up to try to defend them. Some of our folk gonna do that.
Yes, they are. They got right behind them, and they have these patriarchs to come on in and be able to use and usurp their energy to take advantage and get people on certain sides, which is even crazier. Not being strong enough to see that.
We've got Masons and secret societies within our own group of people, our own race. We've got secret societies, sororities, fraternities, and Masons. And they call some kind of stars. The women have a equal thing for the Masons. And a lot of them don't know that their job is to make sure that we don't ever get anywhere.
Yes.
They don't know that's their job, but that's what they do.
Yes, ma'am.
And some of them really think that they're working for our people, then they're not. They're working for the 13 royal families, of which pretty much many of them are already gone. That's a whole nother story.
I wanted to say the Eastern Stars. I wanted to say just the young lady in the chat was saying, she said she loves your voice. It's so soothing. Me too. I could just listen to you talk. About all types of different things. And over in the chat on TikTok, another comment very similar. I just wanted to read it to you. She said, "Oh, I lost it now."
Is this live on TikTok?
Yes, ma'am. We're live on YouTube and on TikTok.
I didn't know that TikTok would do this long. I thought that TikTok was only a few minutes.
Oh, you can do clips. You can do like 1 minute clips. They have a 3-minute clip. You can do like a 10-minute video, or you can go live, just like we're live on YouTube. We're live.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. With my age, I just don't want to be bothered with this technology so much. I'd rather be out there transplanting my greens and my okra and my microgreens and all of that. Yes, enemies are confederate against us because they want our land. They don't want to go back to where they came from.
That's right.
They ain't got nothing there.
Absolutely right.
Now, Russia is rich in gas, oil, and minerals, but they've also never thrown away the original religious icons. They never threw them out. What did they call it? The Russian Orthodox Church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Putin took a lot of those icons from the Orthodox Church and put them in the museum in Russia so that more people would see them.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, right. And then made sure that the world knew that the Russian people know who the holy people are.
That's right.
Columbus said he was going to the Holy Land, and he came here, and he knew where he was going because the Moors and the Sephardic Jews had for thousands of years been the merchants of the seas that traded all over the world. Okay, so he knew where he was going.
Yes, absolutely.
So let us not fool ourselves about that.
That's right. I have a couple of people asking about the books again. This book, just to go over anyone on TikTok, if you can't see it real live, let me bring this up to you guys. It's called The Global Transformation. It's the rise of feminine power and the Ascension of the Ethiopian King. You can get it on Amazon. This is the cover.
Yes, and it talks about the global changes that actually have happened in the last 7 years that brought about the uncovering of all the lies about who we are. Okay.
I'm looking for the other book as well. One second here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's called American Indians Searching for Home. And a lot
Yeah.
of our people, because of that indoctrination that Africa is where we came from, when they
Mm,
go to Africa, they're looking for home,
yeah.
you know, because they don't know that they're here at their own home and in their own home. We have to accept that.
That's right.
Otherwise, we're going to have these squatters here forever
Forever.
eating off our table. Okay?
And I just had the book pulled up. You guys go to the video on the page. I do have it pulled up. You'll be able to see it. But would you repeat the name again, Mother? I'm sorry. One more time for those that are listening on the TikTok stream. The second book.
American Indians Searching for Home, the Diaspora Road in Ghana. When I lived in Ghana, the village of Elmina, where those so-called slave castles are, these were trading posts for the Jews and the Moors. These were trading posts. Okay,
Trading post.
they
Indian
were
trading
trading
post.
posts. They had trading posts all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so that whole thing about 100,000 of us, 100 million being brought over, and some died, and all that thing.
Right.
Hey, it's just another fabrication. Now, what
Absolutely.
has happened, and a lot of it has to do with the work that Dane Calloway did. He forced it. They said, okay, show me the manifest, because these people kept records. They kept records.
That's right.
How do you do business without keeping records?
That's right.
Okay. And they were businessmen. They were international businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, we read a lot of
And
records on the page, going over this information, even like the docking of the Mayflower, all of the people that came over. I went over the whole list of all the families and names that they brought over. It's so much proof out here. People just have to read. When people get stuck in these lies, it's because you just choose to be a part of the lie. You want to stay indoctrinated, or you are completely zombified, and there's no way out at this point for
mhm,
you.
mhm.
Literally.
I'm really appreciating the comments.
Yeah.
Whichever ones I can read, and I'm very grateful and thankful for these comments. Thank you for putting them up. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now it's almost 2 hours, and
Time to go. Yes.
time to go.
Yes, darling. I appreciate you. Like, you ain't got to hang up the line, but I'm finna get out. I appreciate you
Okay.
so much for coming through, and look forward to next time. I'll give you a little more notice next time. Hopefully we can do it next week, because you still have a lot of things I wanted you to talk about. Like I said, I knew it was going to be so much. I didn't even know where to start, but hopefully we can regroup sometime next week. You let me know when you're available, darling, and we'll definitely get back and talk about some more of the other things I wanted you to get into.
Okay, you can get herbs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a herbals called herbapol.com. You could go to that website to get herbs. We've had herbs.
What is the site again?
Herbapol, HERBAFUL.com. Or you can call and leave a message at 404-767-4786. Leave a message for Mama Kali. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
404-767-4786 or to herbapol.com. HERBAFUL.com. Okay?
Okay, there we go. Yes, ma'am. I got look, check it to make sure I didn't put something wrong in here. This is what I
I
have.
don't see it.
Purplefool.com.
No L in it.
Okay. Oh, her buffalo. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 767-4786. Sorry. Leave a message. I will answer saying leave a message. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Thank you
I'll
so
get
much.
back to you. Just say you want to hook up with Mama Kali. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you so much, and I'll be talking with you soon, and we'll definitely set something up for the next time. Give you a little time to, put together what you want to speak on. But I definitely love when you come and share. I've still been learning so many things just from speaking with you and hearing some conversation. So I enjoy you, and I'm sure everybody else will too. So it was a beautiful build, and you are so appreciated, darling. And yeah, you have a great day. Okay, thanks so much for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your invitation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
And
you.
I will talk to anyone because we got to get.
Uh-oh. She hung up. Let me see if she comes back in, guys. She didn't know too much about the StreamYard, so let's give her a second. I'm gonna try and post that for you. I see that it is Herbafol. Herbafol. .com. Oops. You know what? I'm trying to put it in on here. Hold on a second, darling. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to put the her information on the chat on TikTok before we get out of here. Okay. Herbafol. .com. Okay. And the phone number is 404. We got this thing holding it. It's in the way, Lord. 404-767-767. That's 5767. 4786. Okay. All right, guys. There's the information. You guys can reach out about the herbs, or she doesn't mind sharing. So if you have a question for her, something of the sort, you can probably reach her through that venue there to get some information. She is such a beautiful person. I appreciate her time. I didn't think she'd do 2 hours. I sure want to ask her some more things. She has so much stuff, man. Just to listen to some of the stuff that she's going through. Like I said, she has a whole farm, guys. So this is real important to her as far as like eating healthy, growing your own foods and things of that nature. She said she wanted to speak on that, but the conversation was just, going all over. It was great. And she didn't get the chance to elaborate, but maybe the next time that she comes in, we'll be able to have her elaborate on that, giving some tips on things of that nature, so on and so forth. If you don't see it, here it is right here. I just sent it. Where is it? Did it not go through? Let me see. Let me see. I just put it in there. Here, guys, you're going to have to get a screenshot, guys, because hold on. This is too much. This thing, I'm trying to get ready to get up out of here myself. Hold on a second, guys. I thought she might have jumped back in, but she probably had something else to do. And it hung up. So hold on a second. Let me go to it. Where is it? Okay, here it is right here. Herbafol. No L, no L. It's the second one. Herbafol. Herbaful. Herbaful. The number is 404-767-4786. 404-767-4786. And it's Herbafol. All right, guys. All right, I appreciate you guys joining me over here on TikTok as well. I'm about to close out on YouTube. You guys have an excellent day, and I'll get with you guys later. All right, peace. All right, everyone that came through, guys, I know it's been a minute. I haven't done a live in such a while. Oh my gosh, it's just awesome. But listen, it's nice to see you guys here. I wanted to show you something. Hold on, let me see if I can pull this up real quick before I get out here. On what she was talking about, right? Just to give you a little more proof on that. Hold on. It's on page 10 or 11. Dang. If it takes too long to pull it up, I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna do a whole bill on this anyway. But I wanted to show you guys something. This is something I recently found when looking at another book. It led me to this one, and I'm not gonna even talk about it right now. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let me leave it because I can't find the page, and I don't want to take too much time looking. I didn't know if I was going to get into this, but what she discussed and talked about, let me see if I can say it in the next few minutes. This definitely is hitting on it. Definitely want to get into it, but it might take a little too long. You had to read at least 3 of the pages. Okay, guys. Yeah, peace, love, and bliss, guys. Sorry about that. I know it's been a while since I have been live, guys. I've been doing a lot, and I have a lot going on, and I have been on TikTok when I do have time to go live real quick. I jump on there. People are receptive to the information. I get feedback. It's actually pretty good over there. I am doing some mentorships and a few things on the side as well. So I have not had a lot of time. People that have been on my Patreon, people that withdrew from the Patreon, guys, don't think I just don't care. I just forget sometimes, guys. Like literally, so much going on. I have to think, oh, let me put something up on Patreon. So I have been very slack in that area. I just want to say that right now to everyone. Please forgive me, anyone that has been on there, but I promise to focus on that in this next upcoming month, between now and the next upcoming month. I will be dropping quite a few docs and things on the Patreon for those that are still there. I do apologize for abandoning you guys over on YouTube and Patreon pretty much, but between trying to do things on TikTok and dealing with private things that I'm doing, it's just been a lot, but I definitely try to get back over here a little more frequently. I'm definitely going to come back next week, hopefully, with the mother, so she can share some more of her wisdom and knowledge and her energy in itself. Yes, since I have been on TikTok. I love you too, darling. I'm gonna get back over here. I was just telling my sisters the other day. There's so many things I would love to go over with you guys. I swear, but it's not as easy. TikTok is so easy. You don't get cut off. You don't got to worry about, is they gonna strike me for this, and all that nonsense. It's so annoying. But yeah, life do be life. And say that, sis. Say that. But yeah, there's nothing but love for everyone over here. I definitely have not abandoned you guys or forgotten about you, but I definitely will be back. I'm going to try to come back this week before the weekend, hopefully, even if it's an evening build to go over some things that I've been pondering upon to share with you guys either way. There's been a build up and I haven't had time. So it's a few things I'm going to share with you guys. So I'm definitely going to get to it. Make sure you guys go and support the mother. This book, I haven't read the whole book. I haven't ordered myself, actually, to be quite honest. She sent it to me and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But I haven't ordered it. I'm definitely going to order it myself. So if you guys can support the sister, definitely do. It's some important information there, as she stated. So peace, love, and bliss to everyone that came through. You guys know you are the best of all the energy that I expect to come over here and resonate to the frequency of true light and energy. You guys are awesome. You have an awesome day. Peace, love, and bliss to everyone that came through. And I am out.